In the midst of one of the most turbulent periods in America, a debate took place in the halls of Cambridge, Oxford University, that would echo through the ages.
Now, we're speaking about expense. I suppose there are several ways to address oneself to some attempt to define what that word means here. Let me put it this way, that from a very literal point of view, the harbors and the ports and the railroads of the country, the economy, especially of the southern states, could not conceivably be what it has become if they had not had, and do not still have indeed, and for so long, so many generations, cheap labor. I am stating very seriously, and this is not an overstatement, that I picked the cotton, and I carried it to market, and I built the railroads under someone else's whip for nothing. For nothing. The Southern oligarchy, which has until today so much power in Washington, and therefore some power in the world, was created by my labor and my sweat, and the violation of my women and the murder of my children. This, in the land of the free and the home of the brave. And no one can challenge that statement. It is a matter of historical record. In another way, this dream, and we'll get to the dream in a moment, is at the expense of the American Negro.
That was a clip from the legendary debate between James Baldwin and William F. Buckley. That debate was more than an intellectual sparring match. It was a moral reckoning. On one side, Baldwin carrying the weight of lived truth, a truth America had long refused to face. On the other, Buckley, the polished voice of a conservative order determined to defend privilege at all costs. Baldwin did not debate for points. He spoke as if the fate of the nation's soul was on the line, because it was. His words cut through the polite veneer of Oxford halls, exposing the chasm between America's promises and its reality. And in that moment, Baldwin held up a mirror that reflected not only America's failure, but also its possibility, if it dared to change. That mirror is where we begin. That debate was just days before Malcolm X was assassinated, and weeks before Selma's bloody Sunday, where peaceful marchers were beaten by state troopers at the Edmund Pettus Bridge as they demanded voting rights. That brutal response, captured on film and broadcast nationally, galvanized support for the civil rights movement and helped secure the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. An act that has been dismantled piece by piece, not because equality was secured, but because the machinery of racism and fear still thrives, potent and insidious in every generation. In 1965, America had a problem. In 2025, the language has shifted, but the same old rot festers beneath the surface. Silence is the enemy. Submission is unacceptable. Action is required. It is important to fight and to fight again and keep fighting, for only then can evil be kept at bay. And a key weapon in that fight is resistance. Resistance not just as defiance, but as clarity, as fire, as imagination. Science fiction writer Ursula L. Guin wrote, We live in capitalism. Its power seems inescapable. So did the divine race of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings. Resistance and change often begin in art. And very often in our art, the art of words. And that's where we begin today, with the words. Welcome to The Mirror in the Window. This trilogy series is entitled Seeds of Fire, Mirrors of Truth. In this journey, we will gather three radical voices: James Baldwin, the Mirror, a novelist, essayist, playwright, poet, and social critic who eloquently and passionately his works tackled complex themes of race, sexuality, and identity. Audre Lorde, the Fire, who described herself as a Black feminist, lesbian, socialist, mother, warrior, and poet, who used her writing to explore all the intersections of all those identities and to call for justice and equity. And Octavia Butler, the Seed, a pioneering African-American science fiction writer who described herself as comfortably asocial, a hermit in the middle of Los Angeles, a pessimist if I'm not careful, a feminist, a Black, a former Baptist, an oil and water combination of ambition, laziness, insecurity, certainty, and drive. Each one offers a radical framework for resistance. Each one invites us to see, to feel, and to dream with courage. They ask us not just to resist what is, but to become what might be. In previous episodes, we leaned on the visual language, movement, image, actors. But this episode takes a different path. Here, it is the artist's words that lead, the rhythm of their voice, the architecture of their ideas, because language is art. And sometimes it is the most disarming, the most enduring. We're looking at how words, spoken, written, and imagined, can carve truth into stone, kindle fires in silence, and plant futures in mind. So sit back, grab a beverage of choice, and hear the words of these visionaries through the lens of resistance, tenacity, and yes, hope. Today, we begin with the Mirror, James Baldwin. Baldwin didn't whisper the truth. He thundered it. James Baldwin exposed the truths America refused to see. He held up the mirror with unflinching clarity, forcing us to confront our reflection, beautiful and brutal, radiant and broken. Baldwin resisted not by shouting slogans, but by speaking truths others feared. Baldwin showed us that silence is complicity, and that words can be weapon, mirrors, and a call to act. His rage was not reckless, it was razor sharp. It was the rage of clarity, the rage of vision, the clarity of a man who understood denial is death. His resistance was radical honesty. He taught us that to change the world, we must first see it clearly, without distortion, without denial. He showed us that path forward begins with truth, no matter how shattering. The mirror is not kind, but it is necessary.
I have more in common with a Black scholar than I have with a white man who's against scholarship. And you have more in common with a white author than you have with someone who's against all literature. So why must we always concentrate on color or on religion or this? There are other ways of connecting men.
I'll tell you this. When I left this country in 1948, I left this country for one reason only, one reason. I didn't care where I went. I might have gone to Hong Kong, I might have gone to Timbuktu. I ended up in Paris, on the streets of Paris, with $40 in my pocket on the theory that nothing worse could happen to me there than had already happened to me here. You talk about making it as a writer by yourself. You had to be able then to turn off all the antenna with which you live, because once you turn your back on this society, you may die. You may die. And it's very hard to sit at a typewriter and concentrate on that if you're afraid of the world around you. The years I lived in Paris did one thing for me. They released me from that particular social terror, which was not the paranoia of my own mind, but a real social danger visible in the face of every cop, every boss, everybody. I don't know what most white people in this country feel, but I can only conclude what they feel from the state of their institutions. I don't know if white Christians hate Negroes or not, but I know that we have a Christian church which is white and a Christian church which is black. I know, as Malcolm X once put it, that the most segregated hour in American life is high noon on Sunday. That says a great deal for me about a Christian nation. It means that I can't afford to trust most white Christians and certainly cannot trust the Christian church. I don't know whether the labor unions and their bosses really hate me. That doesn't matter, but I know I'm not in their unions. I don't know if the real estate lobby is anything against black people, but I know the real estate lobbies keep me in the ghetto. I don't know if the Board of Education hates black people, but I know the textbooks they give my children to read and the schools that we have to go to. Now, this is the evidence. You want me to make an act of faith, risking myself, my wife, my woman, my sister, my children, on some idealism which you assure me exists in America, which I have never seen.
Baldwin's words linger. They cut, they echo, they press. The mirror is here. We cannot look away. Baldwin's mirror. It shakes, it cuts, it refuses to blink. The truths we hide, the lies we tell ourselves, all of it rises. Watch, feel, listen.
Lorraine Hansberry said this afternoon, we were talking about the problem of being a Negro male in this society. Lorraine said that she wasn't too concerned, really, about Negro manhood, since they had managed to do and to endure and to even transcend some fantastic things. But she was very worried about a civilization which could produce those 5 policemen standing on the Negro woman's neck in Birmingham, or wherever it was. And I am too. I'm terrified at the moral apathy, the death of the heart, which is happening in my country. These people have deluded themselves for so long that they really don't think I'm human. I base this on their conduct, not on what they say. And this means that they have become, in themselves, moral monsters.
When you look into Baldwin's mirror, what truths about society and yourself are hardest to face? What illusions do you still cling to? And what might it take to let them go? The mirror lingers, its truths rise, unsettled, demanding attention. And yet, even in this tension, there is motion. There is a path forward. From the mirror to the fire to the seed. This is the journey of resistance. Today we stood before Baldwin's mirror. He dared us to see ourselves without illusion. This is the first step. Our next episode, we will feel the fire through the words of Audre Lorde, and then we will plant the seed with Octavia Butler. Because resistance is not just refusal, it is revelation, it is reckoning, it is rebirth. So stay open, stay grounded, and stay in conversation. I'm Gary Mobley. Thank you for listening.